So you got two lovely views here. You got this view. Is someone asleep in that car over there? And then you got this view. But I mean, what a cracking day. Let's go ahead and get going. Anyway guys, well, you really do have two different views today, don't you? What's going on? Jamie on Vlogging today. And welcome back to another absolutely gorgeous bloody day. This is, I keep saying it every time we have a brilliant day, but this has got to be one of the nicest days of the year. Anyway, let's stop talking about the bloody weather. You clicked on the video for the title, so let's go ahead and get right into it. So, are restricted bikes pointless? And when I say restricted bikes, I mean restricted bikes on A2 licenses. I did some research the other day on A2 licenses. I hold an A2 license myself, and it states an A2 license is a restricted license, no more than 46.6 brake horsepower, basically it's 47. So that's the restriction. You can't have a bike that is basically more than 47 brake horsepower, that puts out more than 47 brake horsepower under an A2 restricted license. The bike I currently ride, which if you know me, is the KTM Duke 390. So the full potential of this bike is 43 brake horsepower. So obviously it sits into that lovely gap, but some people out there, like me myself, was going to buy a restricted bike. A good example of a restricted bike is the Yamaha MT-07. Parallel twin, 689cc I do believe. I think it puts out about 74 horsepower. These are off the top of my head, so I might be a bit wrong. But you can restrict that bike down to 47 brake horsepower to make it be able to legally be rid by an A2 license holder. There's all sorts of bikes you can ride and restrict. There's a brilliant website which I'll leave a link in the description. I think it's just literally called a2bikes.co.uk. And what it does is it basically shows you every single A2 bike that you can restrict. Most of them are very old bikes, you know, like F800s, 80s, Africa Twins, and all them sort of more retro bikes. There's also a few new bikes on there. From what I can remember off the top of my head, there was the Hypermotard 1100, Hypermotard 796, and I think in the description of the website it does state how the restriction works. So off the top of my head, I do believe you can't restrict a bike that is more than 94 brake horsepower. Reason being, I think the restriction is, I think it's like 0.2 kilowatts per ton or something like that, 200 kilowatts per ton. So anything under that band cannot be restricted. So the aim of today's video, which is going to help out those people that are wanting a restricted bike, or in the market for a new A2 bike, and they want to know, do they go ahead and buy a KTM Duke 390 for example for 2 years and move up to the big license, or do they go ahead and buy a Yamaha MT-07 or a Triumph Street Triple, restrict it, and then later on have it unrestricted? So there's 4 ways you can restrict a motorbike. There is a simple throttle restriction. Hey, mate. So yeah, a throttle restriction is where, if it's a cable, you go down to the, I think it's the butterfly valve, and there's a certain limit, so you can't turn the throttle all the way. So like a 94 brake horsepower bike, it will only turn until the throttle's 47 brake horsepower. That's one way. The second way is an ECU restriction, where it will literally just not let the computer on board the bike will not let the bike put out more than 47 brake horsepower. The third one and the fourth one kind of tie in the same, and they're exhaust restrictions. So there's the intake exhaust restriction, and I think it's not the outtake or anything like that. It's like the I think it's I can't remember it, but it's something to do with the back pressure of the exhaust. So yeah, they're the 4 ways of restricting a bike. 3 of them, if you're going to restrict a bike, permanently restrict that bike. There's nothing you can do about it. Except the first one. So the throttle restriction, I'm going to use the Yamaha MT-07 as a brilliant example, because I know quite a bit about its restriction because I was in the market for one. So when I went over to Fowler's in Doncaster, there was 2 ways they was offering to restrict the bike. There was the throttle restriction, where you'd pay full price for the bike and they'd restrict the throttle. And when they restricted it, they give you a little piece of paper that says it had been restricted. But that little piece of paper absolutely means nothing to the law. A lot of people think it does, but it means absolutely nothing to the law in legal stances. So the only way they're going to know if your bike is restricted when you come off it is if they go test it, or they pull you over and they test it. And if it's past it, then I don't know what happens there. Probably legal action, because you're riding without limits of your licence. Pull out on us, mate, good idea. Then the other one they was offering was the ECU restriction. So basically you'd buy the bike for $6,000, they'd ECU restrict it, but then basically that bike that has 74 horsepower would just be a $6,000 47 brake horsepower bike. So this is where the question, is the restriction worth it? In my eyes, it depends what restriction you get. But the reason I say is it worth it is for the simple fact that if you are on a restricted bike, an A2 license, you will only, if you really enjoy your bikes and you've gone to the trouble of getting the A2 license, you're probably only going to be on that license for your minimum of 2 years, and then you're going to go up to your bigger bike, because I've been on it for a year and I can't wait to get on a bigger bike. So do you go ahead and buy an R3, a KTM G390, which puts out 43 brake horsepower, keep that for 2 years, then sell it on? Or do you go ahead and buy your bigger bike, restrict it throttle wise, because I know some bikes you can't restrict all throttle. You can't restrict all throttle bikes because some of them have electronic throttle like this. This is a ride-by-wire, so there's no actual cable whatsoever. This is all straight to the ECU, which goes straight to the valve. So yeah, that's basically the video. I know it's probably not the outcome you're looking for. It's pretty much a very neutral opinion on it. What did I do? I went ahead and bought the KTM G390 for financial reasons. That's the only reason why. If I could have done it again, if I had the money, yes, I probably would have bought the MT-07, got a throttle restriction and taken it off. Because when you take that restriction off, that's double the power of that bike. You know what I mean? It's going to feel like an entire new bike. So yeah, I'd get it restricted. But I think the answer to the question, are restricted bikes pointless? I think the real answer to that is every single bike that isn't throttle restricted, whether it be exhaust or ECU restricted, they are pointless, because you're just wasting, you're putting in so much money for the looks and the extra cylinders and the better brakes, but you don't need them because you're not getting that full power of the bike. It's just a waste of money. This bike that I'm on now, 3,500 quid, right? The Yamaha MT-07 restricted was $6,000. That is $2,500 more expensive. For what? If I'd have had that ECU restricted, to me it's pointless. But yeah, I hope that did help you out, guys. I know this is a very, very different vlog to what I usually do, and if you do enjoy the dual cams, then that's even better for us. But guys, I hope you do enjoy it. This has been JBL Motovlogging. Everybody ride safe, and yeah, peace out.